Hello, everyone. Welcome today to this awesome event. And I love to welcome Rory Coleman as well. He's an ultramarathon coach in the UK, quite famous over there, I assume, because
Yeah.
he set himself on the map by walking his talk. He's been running over 1,000 marathons. He set several Guinness World Records. And well, without further ado, I love to introduce you and do your all the talking. And let's dive in the awesome adventures you went through since 1994, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, seems a long time ago now.
So how did that all start? You were a heavy smoker, a heavy drinker, and then?
Yeah, it's been an unusual journey, but I think that like a lot of young people, I thought that I was indestructible, and I didn't really know what my values in life really were. So I went to school. I was happy at school. I was very lucky. I went to a very good school in Stratford-upon-Avon where Shakespeare was taught. But I think really I was a very young and immature 18-year-old, and I didn't really quite know what life was about. I went to university but struggled there and dropped out. And because I had an artistic background, a creative background, I went into the print game. And for 10 years, I was very happily printing and making plates. But really getting into a lot of scrapes because I thought that my values were down to money and going out and enjoying myself, and smoking and drinking were an inherent part of that apprenticeship and that trade in the 80s. In the UK, lots of people went lunchtime drinking. We did lunchtime drinking, afternoon drinking, and after work drinking. And I got quite good at it. In a bad kind of way. And by the time I was 31, I was starting to look in the mirror and I was hating the person looking back at me. I think looking back...
Was there a sudden thing that happened? Was there a wake-up moment? What happened?
There was an initial one during the Freddie Mercury tribute concert, which is on the 20th of April, 1992. And in the UK, there's an organisation called the Samaritans, and during the concert, Freddie was dead. Freddie was one of my heroes. All these amazing people were playing these songs that I love. And I just thought, I'm out of control. And I picked up the phone and I phoned the Samaritans and cried for help. They were very good, and they sort of said, look, you need to speak to AA really, because you sound like you're alcohol addicted. So I spoke to AA, and they told me a whole load of stuff that I didn't really want to hear. So I put the phone down, phoned the Samaritans back and said, look, I'd rather happily speak to you than the AA. And they sort of said, look, you need to dry out. So I thought, rightio, I'll do this on my own. And for 6 months, that's what I did. I didn't exercise. Literally, I just cleaned up my lifestyle. Things happen.
By yourself?
All by myself, yeah. I just thought, I don't need anybody's help. I can do this. And there weren't any online help groups or books. I don't read books anyway. I'm not I don't tend to read many things. I'm a very numerate person. So I just thought, oh, hell it, I'll do this on my own. So I cleaned up for 6 months, went on a disastrous holiday and went back to the pub. And really, it wasn't until Christmas 1993 that I hated myself even more, and I decided that I needed to go for a run. Now, the only thing I can think of looking back is that I've seen lots of people running the Shakespeare Marathon past my parents' house, and they all look slim and fit and happy, and I was overweight, unfit and unhappy. So I thought, well, maybe I can join their tribe, because I think that's what you do. You sort of try and join a peer group that you want to be part of. And I went for a run, and it was literally 100 steps before I was passing out on the pavement, totally out of air, running too quick. But it didn't matter because I'd found my thing. I'd found my therapy. And I think I'd found my escape out of being the person that I'd become. So it was good that I did 100 steps, and the next day I did 200 steps, and the next day I did 400 steps. So that was 25 years and 2 days ago. So I sent myself a birthday card on the 5th of January, because that's when my journey started, on the 5th of January 1994. And by the end of that January, I'd lost 15 kilos, and I could run probably 10 miles or 16K quite comfortably. I actually found out that I was quite good at it. And very quickly, I set myself up to do a half marathon, in the half marathon that used to pass the house where I'd grown up as a child. So in the April, I did a half marathon under 2 hours. And then I set myself the target of doing the London Marathon, which was the big thing back in the 90s. You know, if you went to work on a Monday morning and people said, "Oh, what did you do at the weekend? Did you go out? Did you go clubbing or whatever?" You sort of say, "Well, no, I did the London Marathon." And everybody, "Whoa, that's amazing. You did the London Marathon." And I signed up, paid my £13 because it was very cheap back then, filled in the sheet of paper, and I was in. But I thought I'd better do another marathon before the London Marathon in April 1995. So I did the Telford Marathon, which is a very small marathon in the UK. And I ran very hard for the first 20 miles and then died. Walked a few miles and finished in just over 4 hours. But I felt this amazing feeling of accomplishment. Then 56 days later, I did the London Marathon. And by then, gosh, I was running twice a day. I'd lost loads of weight. And literally, I jogged around in 3:54. And coming over the finish line that night, there's a highlights package that the BBC do. I got my hands in the air coming over the finish line, and I thought, this is it. I've made it. And I loved it that much that I actually ran a marathon the next week because I wanted to get that same feeling. And I ran one the week after and the week after, and I've been doing that ever since.
And what about injuries?
I've never, ever been injured, not once. I think I've been very lucky. I must have the ultimate runner's gait. But I've always worn good shoes. And I've always worn wide shoes. And if I have felt some twinges or whatever, I've always had some days off. So no, I haven't had Achilles problems, hip problems, anything at all. I've been very, very lucky over 25 years. But maybe that's because I started running when I was 31. So I think lots of injuries happen when people are young, and also when they try and do too much too soon. I think mine was a very gradual process. Plus, I didn't read any books about running. I learnt it myself. And also, I think if you talk to other people, like you've just said, what about injuries? I think you can start inheriting problems. So one of my things is that I've never thought about getting injured, and I've never been injured. So
that is an interesting approach. Yeah. It could be. I think about it a lot. I got injured. I always thought I didn't get injured, and I was having good genes and everything. But last year I got injured, and I'm still struggling to get back on track. And once you get injured, then it's somewhere in the back of your mind all the time when you start getting back, right?
Yeah, and I think from all the people that I coach, the big problem is that if you've got an Achilles problem, you don't sort it out. You try and sort out the symptom with different orthotics and different remedies. And actually what a lot of people are doing is they're running in the wrong shoes. I wear really, really stable trainers. I'd love to wear some of the lightweight trainers with all the nice colours and everything, but unfortunately I can't. I wear Brooks trainers. They're incredibly unsexy, but it does mean that I can run whenever I want to, injury-free.
Yeah, but would you say that those shoes they change, they differ from person to person, right? What is best for you? As long as it's comfortable, is it fine in your opinion?
Yeah, the interesting thing is there's this huge diversity nowadays about everybody being different. Um, I don't know. We've all got 206 bones. We're all human beings. We're all designed to run. And I think that there's a basic way of doing things that you can teach to people. And that's what I do. People come to me and they ask me for my opinion. And I sort of say, well, here are some basic rules. Try these shoes, try these socks, try these clothes. And if they're okay, that's great. You don't have to spend hours and hours and hours doing research, reading reviews on different products, because actually a lot of these products have already been tested out. I know you can run 560 miles in a pair of adrenaline GTS trainers because I've done it.
Yeah.
And for the majority of people, overpronation shoes are just fine. If you're going to go and run a race, I've run 90k in a pair of racing flats. You can just once if you're racing, because you're going to shred your legs anyway. So a pair of racing flats for one day isn't going to kill you.
Yeah. Well, what about Hoka? Those comfortable shoes? Is that the kind of shoe that you would prefer above the minimalist shoes then?
Yeah, I think one of the problems with lots of Achilles problems we see nowadays is this zero drop. Running's really interesting. When I started, there weren't really any very nice shoes at all. Actually, I remember going to a running shop in Birmingham, and the guy behind the counter said, "You need this pair of Saucony Courageous 3s." And I looked at them, and they were the most unsexy pair of shoes you could ever imagine. I just thought, oh, I wanted some really nice bright Asics trainers or something. But he said, if you wear those trainers, you can wear them, but you're going to get injured, or you can have these, and you're going to be able to go and do whatever you want. So I took his advice, and it was just really, really good advice. But what happens is that companies have to bring out new products. And part of the new product thing is that people want lightweight shoes.
Yeah.
They want this lightweight feel, this bounce. But actually, if you're taking out the stability, then you really are going to give yourself problems. And I think the methods that I've been using over the years, and the methods I try and coach my clients, is to take out the orthotics and try and sort out a stable platform to run on, and actually it works wonders.
So can you explain it a little bit?
Okay, so say you take a Hoka trainer. So I meet people that have Hoka trainers with orthotics in. So a Hoka trainer is really spongy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you're putting something really solid on something spongy, it's still going to move around. So you're getting that twist of your ankle. So I always look at people's ankle to the bottom of their leg, and what we're looking for is that angle of deflection. That's the thing that gives you that Achilles problem. That's the thing that over running 160k will make your feet swell up like elephant ankles if you do a very long race. I'm trying to look for, so with those trainers that are very minimalist, made of foam, they compress, and it's that compression that means that your ankles are unstable. So if your ankles are unstable, your knees are unstable, so there's rotation in the knee. So we see a lot of prepatellar bursitis nowadays, runner's knee.
Yeah.
And up until 10 years ago, I hadn't heard of iliotibial band syndrome. Nobody had IT problems. But nowadays, it seems to be something that's really, really inherent, especially with people learning to do marathon desable. So they're trying to run in lightweight desert style trainers, on the road in the UK, and they're inflaming their IT bands, and they're also getting hip problems. So I think it's about the stability. Stability in the ankle seems to make a big difference to any injuries that you might get.
But you have different terrains and different elevation. Some people are 4-foot runners. Some people are more on the back. So what wouldn't you say that you would need different shoes for different circumstances?
Yeah, that's right. The interesting thing is, if you run 80K, you're not going to be much of a 4-foot striker at the end of that. You're going to be overpronating with everybody else, I'd say. Mm-hmm. It's interesting how the shoes again are changing from, like, the Vibram 5-finger shoes have disappeared, haven't they? There's that sort of revolution's gone a little bit, the barefoot revolution that happened maybe 5 years ago. Hoka's used to be very, very high, but they're now a lot smaller. Mm-hmm. There seems to be less zero drop shoes around, and actually the shoes are going more traditional. So the latest Brooks trainers have changed definitely in 2018 from where they were in 2016. So I think it's interesting as technology gets better, as more people are running, maybe the shoes will get better too.
Yeah, all the bells and whistles go away, and we go back to basics a little bit, maybe.
That's right.
That would be good. Okay. And well, you had many extraordinary adventures, and you were so kind to write them all down in a book. But we can't read it all today, but at least we'll put some link later on so people can look you up. But maybe you can just share a little bit of it today.
I can do. Actually, writing a book is a lot harder than running any marathon. That's one thing I'd like to say.
Oh, really? I never
really,
tried.
It's really, really difficult because, especially if I'm a very numerate person. I think one of the things that attracted me to the running was I found that it was so positive, and coming into a world that I didn't really understand or I didn't know much about, I wanted to make my mark. I think that everybody during their time on this planet is trying to make their fingerprint. They're trying to leave their impression on the planet of when they were here. And I've been chipping away at my headstone in a way. So, it'd be Rory Coleman, I don't know, 1,500 marathons or 1,200 marathons or whatever it might be. Those are my accreditations. And back in 1995, there were very, very few people in the UK that had run 100 marathons. When I started running marathons every week, I used to see the same people, maybe 10 or a dozen people, and we were all clocking up numbers. We're all driving around the UK, going into France and Holland, wherever we could find a marathon and go and start clocking up some numbers. Mm-hmm. And it's not like it is now. There are so many marathons. There weren't a tremendous amount of marathons, but within 2 or 3 years, you could quite easily clock up 100 marathons, which is what I did. And when you get to running maybe 10 or 11, on consecutive weekends, you're sort of thinking, well, I wonder how many other people in the world are doing that. So I thought, well, I'll just nip into a bookstore and have a look at the Guinness Book of Records. Mm-hmm. So I looked in the Guinness Book of Records, and at the time, the world marathon record was 2 hours and 6 minutes. So I thought, well, I won't go for that one. And then running backwards was 3 hours 20, and I thought, well, that's quite quick too. And I thought, well, I wonder where there are some things where I can make my mark. And a lady in the States had run 93 miles on a treadmill. And I thought, gosh, I could run more than that in a day. And I'd never been on a treadmill, but I set all the treadmill up and I contacted Guinness and I said I wanted to run this, see how far I could run in a day. And they sort of said, well, if you can do a 6 hour, a 12 hour, a 50k and 100k along the way will sanction those records too. So in 1998, on the 17th of October, I ran 162.19k in a day on a treadmill, just over 100 miles, and set these world records, which I suppose are like my exam accreditations or my degree in running. Those are my things that I can sort of say, look, I'm a really serious runner, and by the way, I've got these world records. So I did the world records, and then I was looking for some areas where I could work and I could build my reputation and build my personal image so that I could actually make running my job.
Yeah, so I was wondering about it because you needed a lot of time to get from where you started to breaking world records. So did you have a job at the time, or how did you do?
Yeah, I did have a job at the time. I was still working in the print game, and then I went to work for a company where I had a car and a petrol card, so I could drive all over the UK, still doing these races and marathons or whatever. And I was very fortunate to be introduced to David Bedford, who was the race director of the London Marathon. And in setting the 7-day world record, I ran for 12 hours a day on the treadmill at the London Marathon exhibition. And I got to know David very well, and along the way I'd run from Southampton to Newcastle doing some of these running feats, because at the end of the day the marathons weren't enough. So you can go and run for 42k for 3.5 hours, but actually the fun only lasts for 3.5 hours. So if you could run 50k and it takes 5 hours, you get an extra hour and a half of fun. That's the way that I looked at it. So I then looked at other races that were 80 miles, 140 miles, whatever, because I wanted to see where my limits were, but also I loved living life in the race, because when you're living in the race, all you're thinking about is the next step. You're not thinking about any problems at home or work or money or the tax man. All you're doing is thinking about breathing and taking the next step. Mm-hmm. So it's a fantastic way for escapism. So I was building this media profile, and I did lots of stunts. I did John O'Groats Land's End, and I ran all the Premier League football grounds, marathon a day, whatever. But then in 2003, there's a world famous challenge, which is the Captain Robert Allardyce Barkley Challenge, where you run 1 mile an hour for every hour of the day, for 1,000 hours. So it was completed in 1803 by this guy in the army, and he won the equivalent of modern day money of 320 million, most of Prince George, because there was a thing called pedestrianism in the 1800s, where people used to gamble about how far they could walk.
Yeah.
So it's a really great story. So part of the appeal of doing this was a media event for the London Marathon. Mm-hmm. And I got chosen to do this thing, and I think only 6 or 7 people have done it in the world. It's one of the really rare things. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, we ran the London Marathon, which was the same day that Paula Radcliffe set the 2:15:25 world record. So we were paid for by the London Marathon. I was sponsored by the London Marathon. I actually got paid to run the London Marathon, which for somebody that was a heavy drinker, smoker, overweight guy, I thought was pretty cool. And to be with Paula the day that she set the world record, which is still the greatest piece of distance running ever, in my opinion, was fantastic. So I felt very blessed to be part of that. And I think in doing that, it built my media profile. And then in 2004, I was approached to run to Lisbon in Portugal, which I think was really the pinnacle of my running career. There I am that's on the hard shoulder in Spain. That road is 10K long. It's absolutely straight. It is as straight as you could possibly be. And it was it was 47 degrees that day. It was super hot. The tarmac, it was boiling. It was a bit like Badwater, I suppose, if people have done Badwater. Mm-hmm. But it was the greatest holiday. It's the best thing running-wise I've ever done. To have 6 weeks doing exactly what you want to do, 6 weeks off work. I was also, again, paid to do it. So it was like professional running.
How did you get paid for that? Did you get sponsors?
Yeah, I was approached by Gillette. Gillette were looking for somebody to run to Euro 2004. And what happens with football is that you have to be one of the main sponsors of football, like Coca-Cola or McDonald's or all the terrible sponsors in the world that sponsor football, to advertise your product. Mm-hmm. And what they were looking for England's most extreme fan to run to Lisbon. They've been looking for about 18 months and approached the London Marathon organisation. And the London Marathon organisation said, well, just give Rory Coleman a ring. So they phoned me and they said, we're looking for someone to run to Lisbon. I said, well, yeah, I'll do it. Count me in. And they said, well, don't you want to think about it? And I thought, well, not really. It sounds great. They said, we think it's a long way. We think it might be 10 miles a day. And I said, well, I think it's going to be a bit more than that. And also, we only had a month to prepare. So I was very lucky. I sent a message out to my phone saying, does anybody want a 6-week holiday? And 2 people that I'd never met came back and said, yeah, we'd love to crew and be your crew. And I met Sean and Sarah on the first day of the run. Literally, I just said, oh, hiya, nice to meet you. And we set off on this crazy trip to Lisbon, running 3 days in the UK, 25 in France and 23 in Spain. And then when we got to Portugal, they said, well, you're going to have to hurry up because the stadium, you can't get to the stadium on the day that you want. You've got to get there a day early. So I had to do 40 miles in the last 4 days. But it was great. We just started running at 9 and we had 11s, then lunch, afternoon tea, and finish around 5. It was great. Just 5 hours on the road every day.
Nice working day.
In this giant motorhome, it's fantastic.
So they had the RV with them, and that's where you slept.
Yeah, and literally, I just used to say, well, I'll see you in 10K. I had a mobile phone and a water. I carried 2 liters of water on my back, and literally just had this fantastic. It's like a pilgrimage, really. Just on the side of the road, thinking about life, thinking about my family, putting things in order, and having this fantastic. It's like a time out.
Yeah, but did you train specifically for it? I mean, at that time, you were still running a marathon every single week.
Yeah, not really. I only had a month anyway, so you can't really do much specific training. I just thought, well, it's only 50K a day. I can take all day if I need to. But what happens is that you actually get better. You get quicker as you go along. So in 2013, I was asked by the government to do some media. Do a media story with Stoptober, which is a program they have for people stopping smoking. And I ran 28 marathons in 28 days. And 3 weeks after that, I ran my quickest marathon for 11 years. Because if you run 200 miles a week, 320K a week, you get really, really fit.
Yeah.
There is literally no substitute for all of those long, slow distance miles. In those 320k a week, I didn't walk one step. I ran all of it. It was slow. It was slow, and a lot of the heart rate was under 100 a day. So some days it would be an average heart rate of 97, 98, somewhere like that. But I was still running, and you burn off lots of excess fat. And actually your brain starts thinking that, well, 42k isn't very far, is it? Well, it's not very far if you're standing in Birmingham with 225k of a canal to run to London in front of you, or you've got the Marathon des Sables at 250k. But I suppose it's relative, isn't it?
Yeah, but well, you had your legs that were, and you were fit and everything, but you had no special plan for nutrition either.
No, at the time, I'm a qualified nutritionist now. At the time, we were looking for very calorie dense food. So I was drinking a lot of custard. So when people were coming out to see me, so my wife would come out and see me in France. She was actually flying out with custard. If anybody came out, they just brought litres and litres of custard through customs, or in their cars or whatever, or we were buying it in supermarkets because it's very high in sugar and it's very easy to digest. Mm-hmm. But my crew were amazing. They actually made all of the food that we needed, and they used to lay out a table, and I'd come in and sit down and eat the food, and then carry on. It was very much like a job, and it's I think it's how I've approached running. I think lots of people say I ran a marathon and I hated it. And I often think, well, why did you do it then? I've run 1,029 marathons, and I love all of them. Each one of them is special. And each one of them's given me great satisfaction.
But there was no pressure on you, like you had to break a record at that time, was there?
I think for the first, I once said if I ever run over 4 hours, I'll quit, which I think is quite funny. Because I've done many marathons over 4 hours for one reason or another. But I think people are very time driven. I feel more, it's about the experience and it's about how it makes me feel. So my wife is a Great Britain athlete. She's a sub 3 hour marathon runner, 2:59.06 marathon PB. But we can't run together. I love her dearly, but we can't run together because we fall out. Because all she wants to do is just run and run hard all of the time. I'm sort of saying, oh, look at the views, look at the sky, oh, look at this, look at that. And she's sort of just, she's tunnel visioned. And I think running's about how it makes you feel. I can't describe, can I describe? When you get to London from Birmingham and you've run 245k in one go, the feeling is completely overwhelming. Mm-hmm. When you run to Lisbon in Portugal and you've been trying to get to a football stadium for 6 weeks, and then you just see the corner of the football stadium through the houses, down a road where you've been running and running and running for 6 weeks, my knees buckled because this whole emotion of getting to that final prize. The finish line of the Marathon des Sables, if you put your hands up, looking at the people finishing that race, you can actually feel the warmth of the electricity of all that positivity of people coming over that finish line. They're just really, really special places. And they're just places that you want to go back to time and time and time again, because it's just so positive.
But what makes Marathon des Sables so attractive for you compared to all these other great races?
I've done a fair few desert races.
Yeah.
I think the thing about Marathon des Sables is it is Manchester United. It's like the brand leader. And even if you did another race in Morocco or another desert race that was exactly the same, people would say to you, yeah, but you've just done that race. Is that the Marathon des Sables? And you'd have to say, no, it's called the Sahara, whatever. And they go, oh, it's not the one.
Is that still true?
Yeah, I think so. I did the Desert Cup in Jordan. Mm-hmm. There's now a Wadi Rum Ultra, isn't there? I did that in 1999 as a oneer. It was just one straight go in a race. It was extraordinary being in Jordan without a map, without a compass, trying to run 160k through sand and mountains, being scared to death. It was so good. I went back twice and did it again. But I think the thing about Marathon des Sables is that it just has a really special place. I went in 1999. I had a real life revolution there. I came back and changed my job. I changed where I live. And it's just a really special place. Yeah. And I'm in Cardiff, I'm looking out the window in Wales at the moment. It's raining, and it all looks a little bit glum and dull.
Same here.
So, is Mazuga, or is the Marathon des Sables this really strange place that doesn't exist for the rest of the year? Is it somewhere that just pops up for 11 days? Like magically, ching, and suddenly you get on a plane and you're flown to this extraordinary place in the world, one of the toughest environments in the world, where people in the UK, they can understand that race. And you'll say, I've just run, I've just done Marathon des Sables. And you say, oh, what's that? Well, I've just run across the Sahara Desert. Well, the Sahara Desert goes right the way across Africa. You're only going to run this little piece, but it doesn't matter because people can understand why you've been in the Sahara Desert. The Atacama Crossing in Chile, mm-hmm. which is the Marathon des Sables in the salt desert at 15,000 feet, is 10 times harder, but nobody knows where it is. Mm-hmm. It's not Manchester United. It's Cardiff City. It's not, it's still. Wow, that's really good. But actually, normal people don't really have a handle on it. And I would say that 99.9% of the general public have never even heard about it. Whereas the Marathon des Sables now, with the films that have been made, people do have an idea what it is. When I saw it, first of all, nobody knew about it. There was only 600 people running. It was very small. And the revolution of the 2000s, the mid 2000s, suddenly it just became this huge monster of a race, didn't it? And everybody added it to their bucket list, I suppose. I think I outlived my bucket list. I did some desert racing. I ran to Lisbon. I don't know. I think maybe I've done what I've needed to do.
You're done? Your bucket list is done? Nothing on there?
Not really. I'd like to keep doing what I'm doing for as long as I possibly can. And I think also, I think for the first maybe certainly up till about 2010, I was very much concentrating inwardly about trying to set these achievements. Because if you set the achievements, people are going to think you're the go-to expert. But actually, what I've found out is that running isn't about me. It's actually not about me at all. It's about other people.
Connections with other people.
Yeah, it's the people that you meet along the way. Certainly those people that I've been meeting in the desert every year, they're just like seeing family, friends at Christmas. You don't see them for the rest of the year, you just see them at Christmas.
Yeah, friends for life.
They are friends for life. And also, yeah, I think, and when times are hard, those are the people that have stepped forwards and said, we're here for you, you know. They're your true friends. They're the people that you've helped, you know, you've helped them. And people like to return the favor, don't they? Mm-hmm. People like to help other people, which has been really interesting.
So where in the whole journey did you become a coach and really start help people professionally?
Certainly in 2006, 2007, I built up a company, and I sold it, and I had some time. I had some time out. And my wife at the time said, look, all these people are turning up all the time to learn how to run the Marathon des Sables. I think you should be charging them some money because you haven't got a job anymore. So you should charge them some money, but also maybe you could teach them how to run on a professional level. So I thought, that sounds like a really good idea. I've got some time out. I'll go and get a personal training qualification. And I started trying to teach people where I live, around where I live, how to run. But the results weren't very good because not many people in the town where I lived wanted to go and run 500 marathons or
no, I don't think so.
or do the Marathon des Sables. Most of the people in the gym just wanted to build muscles, which really didn't sort of attract me. So I had to have a bit of a reality check, and I thought, well, actually, my market is global. I think there are people all over the world that want to learn how to run. You don't necessarily have to come to Cardiff or whatever to come and see me. The internet's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
You can connect on Skype or FaceTime. Thank you, Mr. Zuckerberg, for providing this fantastic free platform. Mm-hmm. And it very quickly grew and grew and grew. And then I think really the last 2 or 3 years, it's just exploded because of the amount of business coaching we're now doing. So certainly with professional teams. So in the UK, we've got some of the rugby teams, the football teams, Sky with their cycling. Lots of their coaching is based on mental mindset. Mm-hmm. And I've set off 1,029 times to run a marathon, and I've always completed. And people want to know how they get that mindset, because for a lot of people, they don't have that resolve, they don't have that determination, they don't have that tunnel vision.
So you can learn that?
I think, yeah, you can. I think what you can do is you can make people realize that actually they're not rubbish, because it's fascinating. I see this more and more, especially with my female clients, certainly the ones that I'm helping to lose weight. They seem to feel, well, they're just already put down by, they have no confidence or little confidence.
I was wondering about it because you tell your journey from the beginning, like, okay, and then I had this goal from the beginning and I wanted to be remembered later on. And I was wondering, I've never had that because I always lacked confidence that there are always people better than me, or I don't have this specific
but they're
passion.
not better than you. They're just other people.
Hmm?
So I think that women's confidence is completely knocked by men. Um, uh, yeah, I would say 100% of women. I meet very, very few women that are just like, yep, I want to win and teach me how to do it. They're all quite fragile. But I believe that everybody is elite. Everybody's elite. You're elite. Everybody looking in is elite. It's just about how hard you try.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time we just think, oh, well, that'll do. And I hate that'll do attitude. I'm very black and white about things. If I'm going to do something, I want to do it really, really well, or
You see
I'm
that?
not. Yeah, or I'm not. I'm not interested. Don't ask me to do a triathlon because I can't swim.
So,
Um,
do you have clients that don't aim for the best? They just like to get fitter. That's good enough.
it is, but the interesting thing is, as soon as people start getting fitter, they then change their goals.
Uh-huh.
So I've got a client who this time last year was 130 kilos. He's now 80 kilos. And 3 or 4 months ago, he just said, oh, I'm going to go and do Marathon des Sables. I've got a lady that's lost 30 kilos. She's now doing half MDS. And if I'd set that goal, if I'd said to them when we first started, okay, you're 130 kilos and in 15 months you're going to go and do the MDS, he would have just gone, oh, I'll give in. But it's not about me setting goals for them. It's about trying to take off those blinkers that people have, trying to take away the barriers. So you're interviewing some really interesting people over the next few days and weeks and whatever. They've all had that same revelation.
Yeah.
They've all had that moment where they've just gone, do you know what? I'm sick and tired of being me. I want to be the new me. I want to be a better version of me. And I want to go and do something that's extraordinary.
Yeah, and they all have the same, like, I don't do it only for me, they do it for something bigger. It's common.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah, too right. And 2 years ago, actually, it's nearly 3 years ago now. I came back from Marathon des Sables, and a week later, I couldn't walk. I'd got something called Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is it's a really rare neurological.
I know. My
Problem.
brother had it.
Oh well, exactly. And what's his recovery like?
I want to hear your story how it went, because you don't hear it very often, and it depends, of course, where you get it. If it's your lungs, then it's really scary. In his case, it was his toe, and I remember he was walking up the stairs, coming back from a camp, and he had trouble getting up the stairs. And at some point, he just couldn't move on anymore. He just was sitting there, and it was like, well, so frightening, because it was such a sudden thing. And then the doctor came over and he had to be sent to the hospital. And I think it was just a few weeks, so it was not such a severe case.
The interesting thing is, I came back from Morocco, and a week later, I was paralysed from the neck down. I'd lost all movement,
Wow.
and they thought it was motor neurone disease to start off with, which is a catastrophic illness, isn't it? I mean, that's like one of the worst things you could ever get. And when it's explained to me that I had Guillain-Barré syndrome, I sort of said, well, I'm one of these people that just says, well, okay, what do I need to get fixed? What do I take? What drugs is it? How long am I going to be ill for? And what happens is the doctor just goes, well, we don't know. And for about a month, I was a nightmare. I was on a lot of medication. My wife was pregnant at the time. She was scared. She was scared witless. She was really worried. But I just thought, oh, I'll be okay. All I want to do is just to get out of hospital.
It's the same approach as when with your training, that you don't think about injuries so you don't get injured. Is that comparable?
That's it. Yeah, just get me out of hospital. What do I need to do? And they said if I could get to the door on a Zimmer frame, I could go. Mm. So I managed to get to the door on this Zimmer frame after 4 weeks. And they said, oh, for heaven's sake, go home. You're a complete pain. So I came home for 4 weeks, and for 5 weeks, I couldn't move. I really couldn't move. I came home, and being at home is a lot harder than being in hospital. Mm-hmm. And after 5 weeks, I phoned the hospital up and I said, can I come back, please?
Oh.
Because I really am. I've actually got it twice. I got it again.
Is it because you have less resistance? Is that true?
It could be. It could be. If you said, have I ever been injured? I say no, but I've been really ill. So maybe my autoimmune system from all the running had been affected. Mm-hmm. But they put me on a lot of steroids, and lying in bed, I was just thinking, gosh, I've been in a lot of scrapes. I've had a lot of experience, a lot of life experience. What's the secret to getting better? Because all I wanted to do was go for a run. I just thought, oh, well, I'll go for a few laps at the park and I'll be back running marathons again. So the one key is learning to stand up. That's all you got to do. If you can stand up, you can move a foot. And if you can move a foot, you can walk. And if you can walk, you can run.
So simple.
So, yeah, it's just like, just find the easiest thing you could possibly do. So over the course of the weekend, I learned to stand up. And it's the hardest thing you can ever do. Learning to walk again is ridiculously hard because you can't remember how you used to walk.
Your balance, you have to work on that again?
Yeah, no balance. I fell over. I cracked my head open. Oh, it was a shocking experience. None of your bowels work, your bladder works, you can't swallow. And also you have to ask for help. Yeah. And I'm not very good at asking for help. Mm-hmm. So I had to learn to ask for help. And it took me 21 days to walk. And
from that moment that you decided that you were going to get better, that you were going to make a step.
Yep, 21 days. And I just used to get up in the morning and they'd lose me all day at the hospital. They couldn't find me because I started doing laps at the hospital. And I only lived 2K from hospital, so I started walking home. So I walk home, my wife would say, what are you doing here? I said, well, I've come home for a coffee because I'm just about to go and walk back. So then I walked back, and then 4 weeks later I ran. Well, I did a park run. I did a 5K run. Wow. About a week later, took me an hour. I was last, which is really really humiliating. And then 4 weeks later, I did a half marathon, and I ran all of that. And then at the end of the month, I did a marathon.
So what did the doctor say? I mean, I don't think that is a very common way to recover from Guillain-Barré.
He said to me, how's the steroid reduction going? Because they want you to reduce gradually. Mm-hmm. And I just stopped taking it. So, which probably isn't the best of things to do, but I just thought I want to get off these drugs because it's making me put loads of weight on. Mm-hmm. So I weaned myself off very quickly. And he just said to me, well, he said, you're a risk taker. So he wasn't surprised. And then I beat him at parkrun anyway. So it was it's really quite funny because I can get back down to 25 minutes now. So I'm running quicker than him and maybe 600 or 700 other people that I'm not fixed, but it's probably as good as I'll ever get. And actually, as far as recovery from Guillain-Barré syndrome goes, I think I've been very lucky. Yeah. And
you're
also,
not recovered quite yet, and that you might not ever get really back to where you were before you got the sickness.
No. I think part of my breathing's still not very good from having Guillain-Barré because it affects your lungs. Yeah. And well, that and combined with I'm nearly 57, so father time's against me. And I've done a lot of running, and we're busy people. My every day is based around helping other people, and some of the things that I've done with runners over the years. So now I work with lots of people that are obese because they also need that mindset.
Yeah.
That tunnel vision mindset that they're buying into, and skimming weight off runners to get them quicker. Every kilo that you carry is about 2 minutes over 42K. I adopted that diet and started working with people that wanted to lose weight.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit, because you call it the ultra diet?
Yeah, it is literally my running diet, but it's projected, so it's called projection. What we're trying to do is we're trying to change how people see food in this instance. So with business, I think business is really interesting. People go to work every day, but they don't necessarily work very hard sometimes, or they don't put everything into their work. Maybe if you work for yourself like I do, you have to work hard every day because you're trying to pay the bills, and also you're trying to give people 100% value for money. The internet nowadays, if you don't provide a service, people are very easily to TripAdvisor you and sort of say, well, that wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. With the ultra diet, what I wanted to do was I wanted to take people's accountability away from themselves. So they now work with me all day, every day. So I give them a diet, and they take some photos of their food, and they send me pictures of what they eat. And
before the idea you say anything?
Yeah.
Let's say the starting.
No. We start by them coming to see me.
Uh-huh.
But we're taking that accountability away from them. So what happens is they get to the stage where they don't want to mess up. They don't want to fail. People hate failing. And also they don't want to fail. They don't want to fail me either. Yeah. So they just think, oh, I better not eat that because I know Rory won't like that. And also what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lift their exercise up as well. So
at the same time.
Oh yeah, definitely. So there's a big debate in the UK now at the moment whether obesity is an illness or whether it's just a mental condition. Well, it's really a mental condition because if you move more and you eat less, you lose weight. It's just a really simple biological thing. It's just that people cheat and they cheat eat. I'm very focused, and if I'm going to do something, I do it absolutely to the nth degree. I'm going to do it 100%. Mm-hmm. And what happens is that everybody that comes on the diet loses weight. All those that follow the diet and they up their activity level. All we're asking them to do is to walk 16K a day. Which,
and to stick to the program and don't cheat.
It's hard, isn't it? But if you're there supporting somebody, I would say they're 50% more likely to stick to it. Mm-hmm. Because and also after a week, as soon as people start seeing results, as soon as somebody says to them, wow, you're looking great. Have you lost weight? It's suddenly, that's all the encouragement that people need. I started running, I did 100 steps. And for some people, they might have gone, oh, that was rubbish, I'll give up.
Yeah, so you were able to start believing in yourself without someone else helping you, but there's many people that are not capable of doing that. So you help them start believing in themselves, and then from there, when they start seeing progress, then
Yeah.
progress gets addictive, and they want to get better and better and better, and they set higher and higher goals. Is that the way?
Yeah, and also I'm very honest with people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when people come and see me, if they're really good at something, I'll say, do you know what? You're an absolute natural runner. This is amazing. You're wasting your time because you're not putting enough energy into what you're doing. I've got a couple of guys at the moment who I think can run for Team GB. So I'm working with them, and the results already are absolutely amazing with those people. With literally within 12 weeks, we're slashing minutes off their PBs, literally minutes. But it's about belief, isn't it? And maybe somebody has never believed in them before.
They didn't believe in themselves.
Yeah, because people don't know. They don't know if they're any good, or if they're a lady, they go, "Oh, I'm rubbish."
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you think you're rubbish at something, you probably will be.
Or they think someone else is always better, so why try?
Um, I, I set 5 world records in a day in 1998. I certainly wasn't the best runner in the world. I just wanted it more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And also, I found my particular thing,
Yeah.
where I could shine. And a few months later or a few years later, people go and break that world record. Well, that's fine. They're not my world records. They're the world records.
Mm.
You only borrow them for a little while, but
Yeah,
well, you
that's
do.
true.
They're just yours. But it doesn't matter because they were your records, and you could say, well, yeah, I was a world treadmill champion 21 years ago this year. It's a lifetime, but it doesn't matter, does it? Really, it only matters to me. It doesn't matter to anybody else. It's important to me.
So you focus on what kind of people? Is it a certain age group, or you said that you also are business and lifestyle coach? What is your focus?
So coaching wise, it has been for many years on Marathon des Sables.
Mm-hmm.
The average person is a 40-year-old male accountant.
Huh.
Going through that midlife crisis. So I meet a lot of accountants, a lot of people in IT, who
because the sedentary lifestyle as well, isn't it?
it is, but they get paid quite well, and they have free internet access to look during their work time at people running across a desert. And what they do is they put their head onto the other people's bodies, and they imagine themselves running this desert. And actually, it's quite doable. Marathon des Sables, not all that hard. It's as hard as people make it, and I've been fast tracking them. But then I would say with my clients, I attract probably 50-50 men and women. And business-wise, it's businesses that are going through a process of change. I'm really good at change management, being one person and then becoming another one, in some very easy steps. So I always say to people, think of some things that you do at the moment that you might want to change. So people might say, well, I drink or I smoke, or I'm not active, or I'm in debt, or I spend too much time on the internet, or wherever it might be. And we try and cut out those behavioral processes. And then I say to people, well, okay, if you're not going to drink and smoke and spend time on the internet, what are you going to do? And I said, well, yeah, I want to go to the gym, or I want to learn to sail, or climb a mountain, or I don't know, climb Everest, run, walk to the South Pole or something. So, well, great, let's have some goals. And then we try and change their mindset to meet those goals. So, somebody might say, well, I want to lose some weight. That's okay. Well, I've got a program where we can you can lose 30 kilos, but actually I don't know whether that makes them any happier. It's about trying to work out why they were overweight, and what they can then channel their energy and time into that will make them happier and also keep that weight off in the future. So I think people are basically the same. They've all got different, everybody is different, but everybody wants to be happy. They want to achieve. They want some children, maybe. You know, they want the same sort of goals, and they want to have enough money to go and do what they can do, and they want to be healthy and loved. But it just takes some different things along the way to do that. And buying a fast car, or I don't know, buying a huge house, I think they're just short-term things. Whereas if you say,
about experience, huh?
Yeah, you know, if you said, well, actually, 10 years ago, you know, a housewife, I quite often get a housewife. She might be 50 years old, and she'll say, "Do you know what? I've got this dream of running the Marathon des Sables." They're amazing. They work so hard, and for 12 days, they are a completely different person in the desert, because they're not at home, they're not looking after kids, they're not running around after their husband or whatever it might be. In the desert, they're just living life, and it's absolutely brilliant to watch. And I'm privileged because I get invited into their world. I get invited into lots of people's lives, and people share the most amazing things, and I think really if you're going to say what my biggest lessons are so far is about listening. It's like listening to those people's needs.
Yeah. Needs and wants. What is it?
Well, it's about desire, isn't it? So there's a balance. So there's ambition versus ability. So you might not be a very good runner, and you're saying that you want to go and, I don't know, run around the world or something. I don't know where it might be. It's also, well, the two things don't match. Or you might say, I want to run a 2-hour marathon. Well, the things just don't match. But if we look at that person and say, do you know what? I reckon you could run a sub 3:15 marathon and get an automatic qualification to run in the championship at London if we did 12 weeks work and took 20 minutes off your marathon PB. How does that sound? Well, everybody I've met always says, right, let's go for it. Yeah. And it's amazing. You can, you know, even with people running 3:30 marathons, you can still knock 30 minutes off their PBs just with some proper training, because people don't train properly. They just say,
your experience from running from London to Lisbon and your experience from Marathon des Sables, running it many, many times, and I guess every single time is different from the other. How do you translate that to this accountant sitting behind his desk?
Accountants are good because they understand investment. All right. So what we have to say is, at the moment we've got about 90 days till Marathon des Sables. So you can still do Marathon des Sables on having no running ability whatsoever 90 days out. You could go and do it in 90 days. What you have to say is, right, you need to invest some time. Okay, because that's the thing that's missing, is the time. So you're on a journey. We're in A at the minute, and we're going to B, and in the middle is this time factor. So what we're going to say is, if you did an hour a day, you're going to invest 90 hours into doing the Marathon des Sables. If you did 2 hours a day, you double your investment. And if you took a day off a week, you're actually making it 70 days. So it's about investing some time, isn't it?
Yeah,
trying to balance that.
About making it in their mind from something huge, possible to wrap their mind around to something that is doable.
Oh,
Because
very much so. And also, because having done it so many times, there really are, the three rules are, don't weigh much. So try and get all your excess body weight off, because that's what slows you down and makes you overheat. Don't take much. So you only need 6.5 kilos of stuff. People take far too much gear. And do some training. So for those people who are training to do MDS on maybe 3 months or 6 months, they're going to walk most of the race. I don't think many people have walked 40k a day for a week. You know, it's a long way to walk.
Yeah.
Even if you did 2 hours walking a day, it would probably put you in a better position than doing lots and lots of 6-minute Ks, because if you run 6-minute Ks in the desert, you're going to finish top 50. You know, it's nuts, isn't it? You know, the speeds in Morocco are so slow.
Yeah, but the heat and then the terrain, you cannot really train for that when you're in the UK, can you?
Oh, no, but it's trying to give people that opportunity to invest in the right areas. So when we're at school, you're revising for your exams, and people they revise for the studies that they're already going to get an A in. So we try and concentrate on the bits that people aren't good at. People don't like running fast. People like doing ultra marathons because they think they can run slowly. The best ultra marathons I've ever done are the ones that I've run really fast. Yeah, definitely. Your 50k PB or 100k quick, or I did London to Brighton on the road. Running them quick, running any race quick is far better than just being out there all day. Certainly running Marathon des Sables, it's a lot easier than walking it. Walking it is just hell.
You never have recovery time, huh?
There's no recovery time, and you take more steps, and your feet are in contact with the ground a lot more. So if you run MDS, you probably do 50,000 steps a day. If you walk it, you probably do 70,000 steps. Huh. You know, it's a big difference. Plus, you're out there cooking under the sun.
Exactly.
You want to be out of the sun. You want to be in your tent, drinking water and enjoying the experience with all the other people that have finished.
Yeah.
Rather than just trudging away, thinking, "Oh God, why did I sign up for this?"
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go a little bit towards goals for everyone for this year. One last question about the picture. Your beautiful nails.
Oh, my toenails, yes. That started about 10 years ago at Marathon des Sables, because I just don't get blisters anymore. I've got a sock technique, and I wear some very wide road shoes, and literally I just don't get any blisters anymore. So when people are sort of peeling the skin off their feet, I'm looking at my toenail varnish thinking, actually, I might just have chipped a little bit off. Mm-hmm. So it just started all those years ago, and I've just kept it going. I don't know. Who knows?
Oh, they look funny.
When I was in hospital, they really, really didn't understand it. And also, I didn't wear shoes for 5 months in hospital because I didn't want my feet to soften up. And also, when you learn to walk, you need to feel the floor underneath your feet. Mm-hmm. And I would certainly say when I was running that 50k a day for 40 odd days, I got to the stage where I could feel, it's like a pianist's touch on the piano. You just get that feel of when you're running. And you can get some days where it just feels like so natural. There's no pain, no breathing. You're just completely at one with the world. It's just that I suppose it's runners. People, you would possibly call it runners high or whatever. But I've had some of the most liberating experiences when I've been running.
And this is your grandchild?
My grandchild? No, that's one of my children.
Really?
Yes. I've got 6 children. That one's Jack. He's now 3. I've got one younger than him. I've got Charlie, that's 2. I have got a grandchild. I've got a granddaughter, Aurora. She's 2 this year, and I've got another grandchild on the way. But yes, I've got six children, and my eldest daughter ran her first marathon the day I did my 1,000th marathon, which was good.
Wow.
So that was a really special day in Nottingham
in
2017. So my wife ran with me, a friend of mine, Kevin and Phil. They came and joined me too, and Chris. So we just had a really good day out, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about the time you need, the sedentary lifestyle that people have that want to move through a more healthy lifestyle. And the essential key is the time that you need to make the change, right?
I think it comes down to desire. What do you really want? And I think a lot of people haven't taken time out to think about what they want in life. All they're bothered about is today. And what happens is, before you know it, bang, you're 30 or 40, and you get to these threshold years where suddenly you go, hold on a minute, I'm 40 and it's 20 years since I was 20, or it's 20 years since I left school. What have I achieved? I've got a job I don't like. I've got some children. I've got a wife. Gosh, I need to sort myself out. So you could either buy a sports car or whatever, or people think I'll go and run an ultra marathon because I'll find myself and I'll go and do something just for me. I've heard it so many times, and there are now lots of places that you can do that. There were very few ultra marathons. When I started running in the UK, there were 6.
Really?
There were only 6 ultras in the UK. You could run around a track in Barry, 161 laps for 40 miles. Not all that interesting. You could do London to Brighton on the road, but you had to run a sub 3:30 marathon to do it. You could run down the Grand Union Canal. In 1993, nobody finished that race. There were no finishers.
Okay.
The first year I did it, 9 people finished. So there were very few ultras. And when you did run an ultra marathon, people expected you to run it really hard, like a marathon. Mm-hmm. Even Marathon des Sables in 1999, the first year I went there, there weren't any walkers. People ran it. And what's happened is that the very top level marathon runners got quicker, but at the other end, the slower people have got slower, or there are just more entry level people wanting to buy a life experience, because people want to, they want to have that time out from work and home, and like I said, try and find themselves like I did all those years ago. But it's very good now because these experiences are provided. All you have to do is turn up with a pair of trainers and a rucksack, and you can go and do a race, because everything's laid on, isn't it? The transport, the travel. Whereas really, there's nothing better than just going outside your front door and finding out where you live, running around your city, running around the countryside. I'm very fortunate where I live. I can go and run on the beach. I can run in the city. I can run in the mountains. And
adventures around the corner. You can even have a city adventure.
Yeah, there's some amazing things you can do, and I probably know. My wife's lived here for 30 years. I probably know a lot of the countryside more than she does, because I've been out running on bits that she wouldn't normally run on. So I think there's a thing about discovery, isn't it? And just being taken out of your natural environment. I think that's what people really like.
And what they need?
You certainly need some time to detox. I think in our world that it's speeded up, isn't it? It's running away with us very, very fast. People are nervous. Brexit has made people nervous. Suddenly it's January 2019 and it's like 19 years since the millennium. Gosh, where did that go? I'm 57 next month. Where did that go? Will I still be running when I'm 67?
Oh, you could easily.
I could be, couldn't I? Or when I'm 77, or when I'm 87. I don't know. I trained Sir Ranulph Fiennes, and Ranulph was still running at 71. But I could see how difficult it was for him running at 71. Very difficult to run in deserts when you're over 70 because you can't dissipate the heat.
And you go slower. Or you go a little bit further, and you can still adjust. It's not like you have to give up all at once.
No, quite right. So it's about being healthy at the end of the day, isn't it? And when my health has been challenged 2 years ago, I think there's a realization actually that you just can't keep hammering your body race after race after race. And I've known lots and lots of ultramarathon runners. They come to the scene, they run really hard for a few years, and then they disappear.
Burnout.
And you sort of say, oh, what happened to those guys? They got injured, or they lost the will, or they lost the whatever it was. But yeah, they burn out, and loads of people have burnt out over the years. Or attitudes change, maybe. Don't know. So
what would you advise someone who is very interested in making some kind of transformation? Maybe not as big as you did, but let's start from just a small step. And if you would recommend them one simple thing to change their life, whether it is their diet, whether it's their lifestyle, what would it be?
I'd say that lifestyle is actually the biggest transformation that people can make. You have to decide what it is that you're going to be. What do you want? What is the actual goal? When I started my journey, I had a blank sheet of paper and I said, what does the new Rory Coleman do? I can't change the old Rory Coleman, that's gone. What does the new Rory Coleman do? And I thought, well, instead of going to the pub and doing all that time drinking, I'm going to spend all of that time getting fit, stripping away the old me. So I could then, it's like getting a plant that's out of control and you chop it off just above the roots, just so that it can start again.
Everything was possible on the page.
Yeah, and then redesign, and start off really slowly, really positively with diet and exercise, because it's the time out when you're out running that you get to process your thoughts, because it's all about the brain, isn't it?
Yeah, and you would always recommend to do them. Start with them both at the same time.
Yeah, definitely clean your lifestyle up, because without your health, you're nothing. And also, you have to respect your body. It really is this. I always say to people, it's a Formula One car. So on your feet, you've got your tires. So always have good tires. Your body, this is your chassis. In here, this is your engine, your lungs. So don't smoke because you're killing your lungs. And in here is your driver. This is your Lewis Hamilton, not your Verstappen, because he's crazy boy, isn't he? So, but if you have a Lewis Hamilton in a terrible car, he's still the best driver. He's still the quickest, isn't he? Because it's all about what's in your head. So this world of ours doesn't exist out there. It exists. It exists inside our heads. Excuse me a sec. It exists inside our minds. And really, you have to train your mind. You have to become that ultra marathon runner. You have to become the person that never quits, that has that dream, has that desire, and is absolutely driven 100% to go and do what it is that you say you're going to do. I say I'm going to go and do. I'm going to go and run. So I'm going to go and do Marathon des Sables. If I came home after 2 days at Marathon des Sables, where would I be with that? Mm-hmm. You can't drop out after a couple of days. I'd crawl it. You've told all your family, you've paid the money, go and finish the damn thing.
But and you should not forget about the fuel that you put in, right? That you put in the right petrol quality, and also that you take a little bit of time to replace the tires once in a while. So you need to have a little time to park the car, let's say.
So you go to the doctor, you go and have an MOT at the doctor. You go and get your blood checked. You go and get your LDL cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, your iron checked. If you want a program of what to do, because people say, well, I don't know what to run. I go and run for an hour. Oh, did you run 10K? Yes. It actually had no value whatsoever. Well, if you don't know what to run, I'll write you a program and I'll tell you what to do each day, because these programs balance out speed and interval sessions and long, slow distance. I'm a big fan of Arthur Lydiard in the 50s, of doing lots and lots of long, slow distance, which makes your heart bigger, which gives it more oxygen, less revs, more like a diesel engine. It's like learning the piano. You have to do 10,000 hours to get good at something. That's what Malcolm Gladwell says, doesn't it? It's about 10,000 hours. People want to go and run a marathon with about 10 hours of training. It's just nuts. It probably takes 4 or 5 years to get good at running. And if you want to be a really good ultra marathon run, it's probably 10 years.
So you also teach... Sorry.
10 years to get really good.
Yeah. Oh, I guess, yeah. And then your body's changed, your lifestyle's changed, your food has changed, everything's changed. So then you have to adjust again.
Yeah, and also
like said and done.
and also your thoughts about distance change.
Yeah, true.
So when they said to me, "Can you run 50K a day for 40 days?" I went, "Yeah, sure," because I knew I could. So it's like knowing how much diesel's in your car, so you can go and make a journey. I just knew, that was within my capabilities. So yeah, but you have to become very conscious of who you are, what you do. Certainly as a coach, you have to be really careful about what you say, how you approach things, all those things, because it all matters.
But you also give them tools to become accountable for themselves, because in the beginning you make them report, let's say, to you, and at some point they have to be capable to do it themselves, right? And to make their own.
They do, but it's another set of eyes, isn't it? So my evenings are quite interesting. Tonight I do a lot of reporting with people. So this is with a lot of runners. Tuesdays are always really busy with my people who are doing diets, because we always weigh in on a Tuesday. So that's quite a busy day for dieting people. But I like to talk to people about what they've done. How did you get on? How did you feel? And I think people like to talk about themselves, about their. Well, they do. You know, it's they're paying for my services, but they're also really keen to share that experience. And for they can't share it with their husband or partner or people at work because they probably don't understand what it's like to run 100K, whereas I do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like to talk to them about what they're doing next, and then about the future. So it's a very sort of three-part conversation, and it's just trying to tweak where they are. So, you can write a 12-week program for somebody, but if after 6 weeks they're sort of saying, do you know what, I'm so tired, I can't function, well, the program's too hard, isn't it? Or if they're saying to me, do you know what, that interval session was a piece of cake, I think, oh, right, okay, let's up the interval session a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think people like to map out. I like to give people 12 weeks, put it on the wall, and then everybody in the house knows what you're doing. They know that on the 5th of March, you're running 40K or you're doing a half marathon. So they allow for those things, but also you get a good picture of your weeks ahead. If you're going to run to work and back, well, if you live 10K from work, that's great. You're going to run 10K and run 10K home. It's easy mileage. And, do it 5 times a week, and it's really good training.
Yeah.
So we adapt the programs for people's needs. Like you say, everybody's different. So
what are your goals for this year?
My goals for this year? I don't know, actually. I think if anything, I'd love to see if I could get back under 4 hours for a marathon. I don't know how close I could get, because running under 25 minutes for 5Ks, my quad muscles don't fire quickly enough. I can't actually get my legs turning over quickly enough. But I would love to try and get somewhere near 4 hours again. I think that would be really good. I've got down to about 4.5. So maybe I could do. It sounds terrible, doesn't it? Like I said originally, if I once said if I did over 4 hours, I'd hang my trainers up.
So why not do an expedition? Then you can take it much slower, because you were so full about London, Lisboa. I thought it was Lisbon. I thought it was one.
I could do another expedition, but as you've seen, I've got 2 very small children.
Yeah.
I'm trying to renovate a house.
Yeah.
Life's busy, and also I've got hundreds of people who now rely on me.
Yeah.
On a daily basis, and although the internet goes anywhere in the world, I don't think it's about me anymore. I think I get a bit more pleasure working with them. There's nothing better on a Sunday than getting loads and loads of texts from people saying, "Oh, it's my new marathon PB," or I've just done Race to the Stones, or I've just finished the canal race, or wherever it might be. I love those texts on a Sunday when people have beaten their PBs. And you feel like you've been a really integral part of those.
Yeah.
I think it's more about giving back, because if you think about it, if you were playing football, you'd be retired at 35. I'm 56. I'm more like a football coach nowadays, aren't I? Really? Just trying to work with people, and trying to see things in a different way, and also trying to develop. I'm definitely trying to develop my business and trying to develop how we work with people.
Yeah.
I had some amazing successes so far. And we work with a lot of high-level business, which is really interesting, because people want their business to run like sporting teams. They want the most out of their people, don't they? They want that elite feeling, and we've done that to a lot of companies now, where people are happier, they're healthier, they're fitter, and it all just comes from just that change process and that one spark that says, do you know what? I've got to make a change, which is what happened to me back in '92.
I think it made a wonderful transformation, personally, business-wise, and how you shared it. At first, you were more focused on your own experience, and then once you learn more and more and more, you felt more the need to share it with others, which I think is a beautiful way to go through life.
Yeah.
So I think
I'm still learning. I'm still learning, Mel.
well, I hope you never finish learning. I mean,
Yeah.
let's keep it interesting. So I really thank you for all your time. And well, we went way over.
Sorry.
No, well, I love it, and I think the audience will too. So many lessons, and I'll make it digestible, and I'll sum it up, the highlights.
Thank you.
Share it on your personal page. So I really think that was very inspiring for all of us. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, Mel.
We'll catch up soon.
Okay, thank you. Cheers.
Have a great day.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye. Bye.